Is BBC Radio Scotland. 10:21 on a Friday. Coronavirus has affected every aspect of our lives and every occupation in Scotland as well. Being at sea, no exception. Lockdown and restaurant closures have impacted on seafood sales, leading to hard times for many of Scotland's fishermen. One man who loves the sea is setting out to raise awareness of that this weekend. Tomorrow, Jack Gateacre sets out on a 600-mile mission from Pittenweem around the coast of Scotland to raise money for the Fishermen's Mission, a brilliant charity who've been key in helping families in need at this time and other times as well. Jack joins me live this morning. Jack, good morning. Welcome to the programme.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me on.
So how does a kayaker from Sussex end up on a journey around the coast to help Scotland's fishermen? Where did the idea come from?
Well, it's a good question. So my girlfriend's father used to live in Pittenweem, now lives in Leven. He's been a fisherman his whole life, 50 years, until retiring last year. So obviously very inspired by him. I'm very fond of him and very inspired by him and all his stories of his fishing and the ups and obviously the downs as well of it and everything. So I thought it would make sense to have a holiday up here. I love coming to Scotland. I love kayaking. I thought, well, this is the perfect challenge. I've done other long trips in England, London to Land's End or around the Isle of Wight in a day or various things, but I thought let's try something in Scotland and see the country better.
So it all kicks off tomorrow morning. What's the plan?
Yeah, it does. So we've been out at Pittenweem at about 7 a.m. To set off for 8. The local MSP is going to come as well, and Granny's going to come and see us, and some of our sponsors, G&J Wilson, the fishmongers, going to come and say hello to us and things. So yeah, we'll be setting off from there, saying hello to the vice people, obviously the distance away and all that. And then the first day we're going to go to Grangemouth, camp there, and then keep going slowly through, past Glasgow, past onto Arran maybe, and through the Crinan Canal, up to Fort William, through the Lochs, up to Inverness, and back round on the coast past Aberdeen, Dundee, St Andrews and back. So that's the plan over the 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, hang on, you've only booked 2 weeks off work to do all of this. That sounds like a long way to go in 2 weeks.
It will be, yeah. You have to do about just over 40 miles a day. And then if it's too windy to go on certain days, we'll have to not go then and do extra miles the other day. So it will be tough. I mean, the races I've done in a day is 68 miles. I went around the Isle of Wight in England, left at 8 a.m. and got back at 2 in the morning. So, you know, it's not ideal, but it can be done. So hopefully the 40 miles should be pretty doable, and we'll get done if the weather's all right, yeah.
And all this to raise money for the Fishermen's Mission. Is the plan en route, Jack, to try and catch up with some fishermen and to show your support for them as you go around the coast as well?
Yeah, well, absolutely, yes. So we meet at different Fishermen's Mission locations. Some of them from Campbelltown are going to come up and meet us. We've got advice to go through the Crinan Canal rather than down the Marlin because bad weather and things and time pressure. So we're meeting them there. The MP for Air suggests we meet him there as well. I don't know if we'll make that or not, but they kind of invited us. And then a few other MPs and fishing community sort of people are going to meet us. So the MP for Arbroath is invited us in for Friday the 14th to meet the fishermen there. And yeah, if they're ever about anywhere, I'd be delighted to see them and meet people along the way with our wishes and sort of carry on the journey. You know, a bit of spice to it, yeah.
Do you know, it's easy for the rest of us to forget, Jack. You know, we go into the fish shop, we go into the supermarket, we buy our fish, we order it when we're in a cafe, we take fish and chips away. But you, I guess, because of the time that you've spent at sea on your kayak, you've got a real respect for what they face when they go out to do such a difficult job.
Yes, absolutely, I do. And I got a story of it because I did some training when I was on furlough earlier in the year in June, and I did a long crossing from Abbotsbury in Dorset over to Brixton in Devon. You think there's men up there next to Southern England, but it was a 45-mile crossing. I'm 12 miles out, and it was beautiful, but I could see storms kind of rolling in. I was pretty exposed up there, pretty much on my own. And it's beautiful, but you can see the danger. You can sort of almost feel the loneliness because you're at sea just for a day, but obviously fishermen go to sea for 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time, not just a day like I was, and sleep on a boat. And so, yeah, I have a huge respect for that, and yeah, it opened my eyes to it, definitely.
What's the attraction of travelling by kayak? What's the experience like?
Well, it's absolutely lovely because the world glides by quite slowly, sort of between 3 and 5 miles an hour, depending on the tide and how hard you're going at it. And there's something quite magical and free about being on the sea, I find, or on rivers or whatever. You can sort of, in Great Britain, you can get almost anywhere by water, really. So I just find it a magical way to travel. And you arrive somewhere, and it's often somewhere you can only get to by a kayak. If it's a small beach down a cliff, you can't even walk to it. So it's magical. You arrive, you can put a tent up, you can have the food, you can watch these places. Again, being able to see looking onto everything, there's nothing more magical, I don't think, really, to be honest.
And what about the wildlife? What do you see when you're out there?
Well, I don't know what to expect. Scotland is supposed to be absolutely stunning up here, but you see all sorts of things. You see birds, obviously, from far out. You see, in southern England, in rural parts like Devon or Dorset, you see fields, and they'll signs follow the boats. And we've had that on my last trip to Cornwall. They followed us for quite a few miles, because it's obviously we're not on motors, so we're not disturbing the sea so much for them, and they see the plastic or whatever as a sort of a strange creature that they want to get to know. So you do get some really lovely wildlife out there. And obviously, you're in remote spots quite often, so there's no shipping traffic, and it's absolutely magic.
You've told us all about it this morning, Jack, so you set this, you have to complete this now, because you've told us about it. What training have you been done? What preparation have you done for it?
I mean, that's a lot of people got to do it, yeah, that's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now I can't.
Yeah, what training and preparation have you done for this?
So I've done quite a lot of training, sort of, especially since the lockdown. I live in Sussex on the seaside, so I go out every day on the kayak, especially when I'm not working, even when I am, I truck out every day. And I do different trips. I've got different apps so I can see my speed over time, like Endomondo and things. Yeah. So now I can't.
Yeah, what training and preparation have you done for this?
So I've done quite a lot of training, sort of, especially since the lockdown. I live in Sussex on the seaside, so I go out every day on the kayak, especially when I'm not working, even when I am, I truck out every day. And I do different trips. I've got different apps so I can see my speed over time, like Endomondo and things, and you can sort of push yourself on that. I try different rates of the tide, so, fighting tide, with the tide, into the wind, against the wind, all those sort of things, go to different places, practice with the compass, because that's also an important part of it. So yeah, I've done a lot. I've gone around the Isle of Wight in a day, as I said. I've been to the Isle of Wight and lapped it by bicycle. I've been into East Sussex. I've been all the way to Cornwall. I've done quite a lot of training. I've done other kayak trips in previous summers as well, down to Cornwall and other places. So yeah, it's a lot of training really, and lots of theory and looking at charts, and it's important. The navigation aspect is very important, because you've got strong tides that can throw you off, and the weather can turn. You can suddenly lose visibility, so you sort of need those compass bearings. You need to have planned it well, and I've gone in fog before and gone out of it because of that. So yeah, it's been good.
Well, you saved the best to last, because Scotland is going to be absolutely stunning for you this weekend. Jack, stay with me. Here's Colin Mackay from the Fisherman's Mission. The funds all being raised by Jack for the Fisherman's Mission and the work that they do. Colin, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Jack's been inspired to do this by the stories, the family stories that he's heard about the plight of fishermen at the moment. Tell us how the pandemic has affected life for fishermen in Scotland. What's the impact been, Colin?
The impact of COVID, apart from the obvious of illness to the person, the impact that COVID has had on other markets outside the United Kingdom as well as inside it, because the COVID lockdown came, that actually in the UK, but before that happened in the UK, the big markets in Italy, France and China had closed. So the fishermen could go to sea, but they couldn't sell their fish anywhere. So the necessity was that there was no income for them and nowhere to sell their product. So a lot of them, being share fishermen, they're not very used to universal credit applications and that sort of thing. So coming behind a bad winter, no income when they're hoping to start pick up and their domestic income, there was none there to be had. That was a problem fishing a lot of the fishermen around the UK.
So what did we see, Colin? Did we see the boats simply tying up for periods during lockdown because there were no markets, because the seafood markets were closed, because the restaurants were closed, the traditional markets for the produce were closed? Were the boats simply tying up?
That's correct. Start pick up and the domestic income, there was none there to be had. That was a problem fishing a lot of the fishermen around the UK.
So what did we see, Colin? Did we see the boats simply tying up for periods during lockdown because there were no markets, because the seafood markets were closed, because the restaurants were closed, the traditional markets for the produce were closed? Were the boats simply tying up?
That's correct, yes. It depended. The whitefish, the trawlers, the trawlers that go for their haddock or cod, they could go out, but there was a reduced market even for them. So they voluntarily agreed to just go to sea for so many days per week or per fortnight, so that would give all of them a chance to get some income. Other fishers, for the likes of the langoustines, prawns, lobsters, that market had closed completely. So as you said, they just tied up. There was nothing else they could do.
What are some of the stories that reached you, Colin, from fishermen's families about how bad things got for them during the course of lockdown?
Well, actually not just one story, but common for several of the fight fishermen. They got a half a wage in the week of Christmas, and by March they still hadn't had any other wages.
So that's really taken its toll on families. How are you able to help? How does the Fishermen's Mission help?
Well, perhaps the easiest way to say that is at the moment, in conjunction with the government, really, and the Scottish Fishing Federation and the National Federation of Fishermen's Organisations, the Fishermen's Mission is the one-stop shop for all fishermen to contact us, and we can supply practical, emotional, financial support, and also signposting. Although obviously we haven't got the answers for everybody, we do know organisations that possibly, most likely, do have. So we try to point people in that direction. We help them with the form filling for applying for universal credit. That sort of thing there. We can help, but as you know, there were families, organisations that possibly, most likely, do have. So we try to point people in that direction. We help them with the form filling for applying for universal credit. That sort of thing there. We can help, but as you know, there were families in lockdown where everybody was at home, and the education system was done
good from tomorrow onwards for you, I'm afraid. But I think it's okay, actually, isn't it?
It's as long as the wind's low. I don't mind if it's a bit rainy or the cloudy's going to get less burned. It's just the wind that's a killer. So if it goes over 4.6, that can be quite challenging. So as long as it keeps under 4.6 for most of it, we'll be happy, I think.
We wish you the very best of luck. It's a great thing that you are doing. Jack Yeataker there, kayaking around Scotland to raise money for the Fisherman's Mission, setting off from Pitt and Weem on tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, first thing. Very best of luck to you, Jack. Right, time for the second.